So this week is her highest mental clarity. So if you're a loving husband, a loving boyfriend, even though she's having all this energy and you want to do this cool thing for her and she's agreeing to it, this is probably the week that she needs to handle that big task that she has. Hey, what's up, and welcome to the first official episode of the Life with Zoe podcast. I'm very excited to talk about today's topic because I believe that one of the most important parts of any healthy dating, healthy relationship, or healthy marriage is a man understanding what his woman is going through during her menstrual cycle, and it can help him better understand how to care for her. I also believe that understanding the menstrual cycle can get a man ahead of the competition in the dating world, because if you take in consideration her menstrual cycle, it can help you better plan dates, when to plan the dates, and different events around her menstrual cycle. So I think there's a lot of information in this podcast that you could greatly benefit from yourself and to help her. Now, granted, every woman has her own individual personality, but I do believe understanding the menstrual cycle can give men a better understanding of women. Now, women, you can comment in the comment section things that you want the men to know. This is open dialogue. I'm not saying I'm an all-knowing guru. Everything I say won't apply to every woman because every woman's menstrual cycle is different number of days, different types of menstrual cycles. But I want to cover the things that pretty much involve, I guess you would say, the majority of women. There's a lot of science involved in this talk, but I want to make this particular podcast a podcast for men to understand why the woman is interacting with him the way she is during her menstrual cycle. So you're not one of those men that's just saying, oh, she's just being crazy because it's her time of month. You will better understand what's going on behind her, using the science of what's going on with her. Because I think the reason I really want to have this talk is because in the past, I would have conversations with older men who are 40, 50, 60 years old, who were supposed to be teaching younger men things about marriage and relationships. And then they start joking about the menstrual cycle like 13-year-old boys in a very immature fashion. And that's when I realized that a lot of men go their entire lives into their 40s, 50s, and 60s and not understanding the menstrual cycle. So today, I want to talk about this topic so you understand what's going on. Now, getting into the topic, one thing that is up for debate that I want to try to clear up is that a lot of people debate how many phases of the menstrual cycle there are. So what's going on is the menstrual cycle is made up of two different cycles. It's made up of the ovarian cycle and the uterine cycle. Now, the ovarian cycle is the follicular phase, the ovulation phase, and the luteal phase. The uterine cycle is made up of the menstruation, the proliferative, and the secretory phase. So there's two different cycles. But what happens when we talk about the menstrual cycle, we mainly talk about the phases of the ovarian cycle, and then we steal or we borrow one of the phases from the uterine cycle, which is the menstrual phase. Okay. So with that being said, both of these cycles run simultaneously. The ovarian cycle and the uterine cycle run at the same time. That's why when we talk about the cycle going into the first day of the cycle, the first day through the 14th, and all these numbers will be rough because the numbers are different, but we're going to use rough estimates. But usually in a 28-day cycle, day 1 through 14 would be the follicular phase, but that is inside the ovarian cycle. On the uterine side, the first, we'll say 1 through 7, but it could be 3 through 8 days or whatever, but let's say 1 through 7 to make it, to average it out. The first 7 days would be the menstrual phase. So realize the 1 through 14 are follicular, but those first 7 days we're going to call the menstrual phase. And then the rest of those 14 days after the menstruation is ended, we will start calling the follicular phase as phase 2. And then we'll move on from there. Hopefully you can understand that. And I said it clear enough for you to understand. All right. So moving right in. First phase, the first day begins the menstrual cycle, the menstrual phase. So in the menstrual phase, what's going on here is she's shedding her uterine lining because she did not get pregnant. Her egg was not fertilized. So now she's shedding her uterine lining through her cervix and vagina, and she's bleeding. As you know, during the period, she bleeds this out, and that's why she's bleeding. So during the menstrual phase, she is losing a lot of blood. She's suffering from cramps. There's a lot going on and she's in a lot of pain. And because she's losing a lot of blood, she's very tired during this time and she's very irritable. If you remember giving blood at a blood drive and you gave that blood, they gave you that little juice box after, and it did absolutely nothing for you. You had to go out and get some more food to replenish your energy. Well, she is a blood drive once a month. That's a lot. So she's losing a lot of blood. So she's very irritable, very tired. So this is what she's going through when you're just saying, she's got an attitude, she's irritable. That's why she's losing a lot of blood. And so, also during this time, because she's losing a lot of blood, she's going to need a lot of extra sleep. So she's going to be a little sluggish. She's going to need a lot of sleep because she's very tired. So during this phase, I do hear some men, they be like, well, she ain't a baby. No, during this time, during her menstrual phase, you do need to treat her like a baby. She is in fact a baby. She's going to want to cuddle up to you and probably lay in your arms and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you need to treat her like your first baby, your first toddler, the same you would do if it was your actual child. So this is where you first learn how to care for not first learn, but this is where you develop that love that you would have for your child when your child is born. So yes, your significant other, your wife is your first baby. So yeah, do baby her. During this time, she's probably going to want random food. And also because she's losing a lot of blood, she's going to need to stay hydrated, whether that's water, Gatorade, or whatever it is. So make sure you have those things for her. So also during this time, like I said, most of you kind of know what goes on during the period, but there's 4 things that she really needs during this time. One is not talked about enough, but the first thing is because she's going through these cramps, and these are not the same cramps that you got when you played football. Okay. These cramps are something different. So because she's having these cramps, she's going to need some type of pain. Can I say the K word on, pain K word? But usually something like ibuprofen. Now, some people are very holistic and they want to use other methods, but she's going to need some type of thing that will get rid of the pain for her. So in other phases that we're going to talk about in the future, you're going to realize that a lot of times during her month or during her menstrual cycle, she's going to have what we call brain fog, which means she can't think clearly. She's not able to think clear. So maybe the week before her menstrual phase, she was not in a good space in her head where she could remember to get her lady items for her period that's coming up the next week. So if you're a good boyfriend, a good husband that has a healthy relationship, you might want to front run this and make sure you're on your job and get these things for her. Even though, yes, she's probably a grown woman. If, maybe you just keep some in stock in case she runs out. So one of the things you want to do is get something that's going to get rid of her pain. And usually that's something like ibuprofen. And maybe you can talk to her and see what she usually uses and you can go from there. Another thing that some men are embarrassed to get, I don't know why, but I don't know. But, once again, she may forget. So maybe you want to make sure that you have some pads or tampons for her and make sure the pads are the right ones because it's not one size fits all. And some of them are for lighter periods. Some of them are for heavy periods. There's a lot of things. Some women only like to use certain brands. My lady's very, very, very healthy, very holistic. So a lot of ours are toxic free and all those toxin free. I don't have any of those to give you. Maybe I'll have some by the time we put the video out, but those are things she also would need. So she's going to need that ibuprofen, something to get rid of her pain. She's also going to need the pads or tampons or whatever she uses. Another very important part of the menstrual phase during the period, as you know it, is that she's going to need that golden staff, and that is the heating blanket. Heating blanket is very important during this time because it helps get rid of her cramps and just gives her some comfort. Sometimes she's going to want it on her back. Sometimes she wants it on her stomach. But one thing about this heating blanket is it leaves her tethered to the bed or tethered to the couch or whatever she wants to lay. Sometimes it's in the floor because she has to plug this heating blanket in. What I did for my lady is I got her one that was portable. You can charge it up just like a mobile phone and she can walk wherever she wants to in the house, outside the house, even if she wants to go to the store. It's portable and she can take it with her. She doesn't have to stay tethered to the wall. I probably will get an affiliate link and put that link to that product in the description of the video, so you can know what that is and you can get it for your lady. It's a great product that we use, like it very much, and you can get one for your lady. Now, the last one of the four, I don't see talked about a lot. I have even introduced it to some of my lady friends, and that's the fact that during your period, she's losing a lot of blood. So that makes you very tired, very fatigued, very sluggish. So during this time, she's going to need to eat foods that are high in iron to replenish those cells and to give her energy back. Now, the thing with iron, not many foods can give you, some women, the high enough dose of iron that they need. And some of the foods that give you iron, some women don't like to eat. So what we did for my lady was we have a supplement, and we've used it and tested it out, because let me say this, all supplements are not created equal at all. Some of them are very toxic. Some of them are not good. Some of them don't work. So this is a supplement that we tried out that she can take that gives her energy back so she can replenish that energy. Also, I'll get an affiliate link and put that in the description of these videos for you to get as well. It works very well. So ma'am, so you can have your energy back, so you don't have to feel as sluggish and as beaten down, and you can just deal with the other stuff that comes along with the menstrual phase. But I think for the most part, that gives men an understanding of what's going on with her during that menstrual phase, why she's irritated. This is not the time to, snap back at her. She's just very irritated around this time. It may not be because of you. So don't take it personal and get into a arguing match with her, because she's going through a lot during this time. Now, moving on to, remember, the first days 1 through 14 is the follicular phase. The first part of those days, whether it was days 1 through 7, 3 through 8, that first part is now over. The menstrual phase is over, and now we're left with only follicular phase. And that is roughly day 7 through 14. Okay. So during this time of follicular phase is very important to know that these are her happiest days. These are her happy days. She's very happy. She's very optimistic. She's optimistic about life. She's optimistic about her relationship with you, optimistic about that job that she hates. She's optimistic about her endeavors, maybe her business that she's planning to start. She's optimistic about a lot of things, right? She also has a lot of energy during this time. So if she's a gym bae or gym girly, whatever y'all calling yourself these days, if she's one of those, then she's going to want to hit the gym hard. She's just bouncy. She's got all the energy in the world, right? And so one thing I think that's important during this follicular phase, remember, this conversation is how she's dealing with you and, how she's interacting with you, not necessarily all the science of what's going on. We can cover that in another podcast. But during this time, she's going to have a lot of energy. She's going to be happy towards you and optimistic. So during this time, if you're a good boyfriend, a good husband, or significant other, you may say, hey, remember, Zoe, you told me to be smart and plan these dates around certain times in her menstrual cycle so I can be ahead of the competition, right? Well, there's kind of, I don't want to say a problem, but there's kind of a double-edged sword here, right? Because during this time, you may want to take her on that hiking trip or skydiving or run a 5K or marathon because she has a lot of energy and this is something you guys are into. Now, granted, during this time, she may be up for it. She may agree to it 100% and she's ready to go. But one of the important things to remember around this time during this follicular phase, especially days 7 through 14. And let me say this also. Sometimes with women during the menstrual phase, those first days, usually like the first 2 days are her heaviest bleeding, right? So after she's done that, sometimes their mood improves even after that bleeding is done for the rest of that menstrual phase. But mainly I see a lot of women more so around the 7 to 14 days when menstruation is over is when she's very optimistic, high energy and all that stuff. Okay, so back. So during this time, she may agree to do this high energy date or high energy workout with you. What you have to know, and that's very important to know, is that these days are her highest level of mental clarity. And because these are her days of her highest mental clarity, this is probably the days she needs to complete that big task that she has. Maybe it's a test that she needs to take, write her dissertation, planning her business, or planning the wedding that you guys have because you guys are engaged. These are the days of her highest mental clarity, when she needs to do whatever big task that she needs to do that requires a lot of brain power. So it's up to you guys to compromise whether we're going to do this big date that takes a lot of energy. Are we going to do a Spartan race? Are we going to do that workout that we wanted to do, hiking? Or are we going to say, I'm going to step back as the man and realize that you need this time to write your dissertation, or you need to take that test, or you need to do that planning that you need to do, because this is when her mind is the clearest and she's not having the brain fog that she has in some of the other phases of her menstrual cycle. So definitely remember that the follicular phase is when she's her happiest, her most optimistic, she's full of energy, but it's also the time when she has the highest mental clarity, and she may need that time to plan, maybe finish writing her book or whatever that big task that she has that she needs to complete. So I feel like that's pretty much the big parts of the follicular phase as we know it. Now I want you to keep up here. I try to use the what day we're on in the cycle so you can keep up. So now this is something that I came up with, and, bringing new information to you. I don't want to just regurgitate what's already out there. And I do feel like this is accurate, what I'm about to say. A lot of the times, we're in follicular phase, right? And there's a phase that comes after this called ovulation. And I'll see a lot of times, even women will say, I'm ovulating, but they're not actually ovulating yet, as in they're not in the ovulation phase of the cycle. So let me explain what I mean. So now I know we got a lot of numbers thrown out. We already told you that follicular phase is day 1 through 14. And we said menstruation is day 1 through 7 of that, right? So now this is the crazy part. The ovulation phase has not started yet, but 5 days prior to the ovulation phase starting, which is when the egg drops, 5 days prior, on around day 9, you can start to get the symptoms that the ovulation phase is coming. You can start around that day 9 to get these symptoms. One of the main symptoms is the fact that her libido goes up. But usually this part where her libido goes up is 2 days before she drops her egg. So that would be around day 12, because around day 14 is when she drops that egg. So around day 12, she starts to become an increase in, I think it's the luteinizing hormone. So around day 12, her body starts to produce or increase the luteinizing hormone, which is what causes her libido to go up, which means she has a higher S word drive, because I don't know if I can even say that on here. Maybe I'll have to find out in the future. But this is where her libido goes up. And so a lot of women will say, I'm ovulating. And it's not that they're ovulating, but they're getting the symptoms that the ovulation phase is coming. So during this time, we talked about follicular being her happy days, right? But these 5 days prior to ovulation starting are his happy days, because she's going to want a lot of action in the bedroom, because this is where her body is getting ready to make a baby. So her body's putting her in the mood for procreation. That's why her libido goes up, and it's getting ready for her to have action in the bedroom. And I know this is what you've been asking for all month, but when it comes, sir, you better be ready. You better eat a high protein diet, a lot of chicken, a lot of fish, a lot of beef. If you're a vegan, maybe a lot of chickpeas, quinoa, whatever source of protein you need to have. You make sure you stay hydrated, drink your water, your Gatorade, your Powerade, drink your electrolytes. Make sure your water is alkaline, and be ready, sir, because she's going to make you work an 8-hour shift, and she's going to call you back in for the graveyard shift. She doesn't care that you worked a 22-hour day and you only slept 2 hours. She's going to have you on the clock. So you better be ready. Better be energized and ready to go. So this is what you've been begging for. You keep asking her for it. So now that time is here. But during this time, you need to understand that as I keep saying, during the woman's menstrual cycle, she's not always in control of what she's doing and saying because of the hormones and because of this luteinizing hormone that causes her libido to go up. She's ready for action. And during this time, she's going to say a lot of stuff that she doesn't mean. And the women probably are already laughing because, you know, the main thing she says around this time is put a baby inside of me. Listen, sir. You already have 3 children. You already decided that number 3 was the last one. You can't afford number 4. So when she says to put a baby into her, I know you're going to be excited, but you have to have self-control. And remember, we only need to have 3 children. So when she says put a baby into her, don't do it, because she may be upset with you later. And she's going to say, you know, I didn't mean it. I was just saying it. She probably doesn't mean it. So that's for you guys to discuss, but I'm telling you, she probably doesn't mean it. She's just going to want to say it because her libido is really high. So that's something to understand. Also understand that around this time that you may want to be a good boyfriend or a good husband. So you may want to go out to her favorite restaurant, get her favorite meal from her favorite restaurant, and you might bring it home. And you got to realize around this time, her appetite might change. Even though that's her favorite meal, she may not want it. So don't get offended and your feelings hurt and be like, man, I try to do something nice for you, and then you don't even appreciate it. Her appetite has probably changed around this time. All right, now we're still in what I call pre-ovulation phase, which is 5 days before the ovulation phase starts. I want to talk about this phase because, like I said, this is usually when women are saying they're ovulating, but they're really not yet because the ovulation phase has not officially started. But during this time, this window 5 days before ovulation starts, there's some things that you really need to understand around this time. And that is if you are trying to have a baby and if you are not trying to have a baby. Let's start with if you're not trying to have a baby. So what I see a lot of times is people talk about it in forums and even in some rom-com movies. The egg will drop and then they'll run to the bedroom, they'll get undressed and they'll say, we got to try to have the baby now because my egg has dropped and this is our time to get pregnant. What some people don't realize is that 5-day window before, his swimmers can still stay in the system up until that egg drops. And so a lot of women will tell the guy, like, I'm not, maybe she does know that ovulation window is, I'm getting ahead, but maybe she does know that it's a short window. She will tell you, I'm not even ovulating yet. I haven't dropped my egg. So it's safe for you to pew the club, as they say, right? It is not safe to do that because your swimmers can live inside of her for, I think, up to 5 days. So she can still get pregnant during that time once the egg drops because those swimmers are still inside of her. So she still can get pregnant. And this is how a lot of unplanned pregnancies happen because a lot of people don't know this. So now I'm trying to stay on topic. So now that we moved into ovulation, so now that we're moving into ovulation, now that you have decided that you do want to have a baby, right? A lot of people, like I said, in the movies, they'll wait till the egg drops and they run to the bedroom trying to have the baby. This is not true for everybody, but you probably want to try to have that baby within that 3 to 4 day window before the egg drops, because like I said, the swimmers are still inside of there. So let me actually move forward to the ovulation phase, which is, I say, phase 3. What happens in the ovulation phase? It's usually around day 14 in a 28-day cycle that the egg drops, right? During ovulation, you have about 12 to 24 hours to fertilize this egg. That's why I said those 3 to 4 days before, you still can go ahead and do the action or whatever, and she can still get pregnant during this time. Because what I don't see a lot of people talking about, I see women complain about it, but when she actually is ovulating, as in the day she drops the egg, sometimes there's a lot of discomfort and she's having cramps and pains and she does not want to have sex. So I know it throws people off because she's saying I'm ovulating, but what she's meaning is she's feeling the symptoms of ovulation coming on. But the day she actually drops the egg, a lot of women say they have a lot of discomfort and they do not want to have sex on that day. That's why I said if you are trying to conceive a baby, maybe you want to do it 3 to 4 days before the egg drops. And you'll know when that libido goes up that it's probably go time to go ahead and try to have that baby. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. So just understand, if you're not trying to have a baby, that 5-day window before the egg drops is very dangerous. If you are trying to have a baby, then that may be your golden pocket to try to do the action to have a baby. Another thing during the ovulation phase, and this could be, there's the day, slow down. There's the day that she drops the egg, which is around day 14. So let's say between day 13 and day 15, around that ovulation window, is when her estrogen is at its peak, right? And during this time, because her estrogen is at its peak, it causes a decrease in her neuromuscular control. And pretty much her neuromuscular control is like, you don't realize all the decisions that your brain is making at times. So let's say if you're hiking up a mountain, your brain is saying, hey, roll your ankle a little bit to the left because we're about to step on a small rock, or roll it a little bit to the right because you're not walking on a flat surface like a sidewalk. So therefore, you need to have that neuromuscular control to control how your body is moving. So during this ovulation phase, she's very prone to injury because she can just be doing something as simple as walking up the stairs and have a misstep, and then she tumble down the stairs and, break her elbow or her leg or something. So you have to be very careful around this time of the ovulation window. Remember, I'm talking about the actual ovulation window, when she's dropping the egg. And remember, she's probably not going to feel as well. Some women are different. This is not for all women, but so there probably won't be any action during this window anyway, because maybe the deed should have already been done before she drops the egg. Hopefully I'm getting this out clearly and you guys are understanding this. Now we're moving to the last phase, which is luteal. Now I've seen a lot of talk about this phase recently online. And as I always say, it's usually guys making jokes about it. I guess I'm not going to say like I can't see how some of this stuff is funny or whatever, but I do want people, and especially men, to understand that this is serious. And I think luteal to me is one of the most important phases when it comes to understanding how to care for, cater to, and to, yes, baby your significant other, your woman, your wife, your girlfriend, or whatever. It's a very important phase that men need to understand. So in the luteal phase, remember, this is not ovulation week. Around this time, because she's producing progesterone, her cervical mucus, there's things you guys call it that I can't say on here, but you know what I'm talking about. She's not as lubricated during this time because the progesterone is being produced. It is actually thickening up her cervical mucus, and it's, for lack of better words, is drying her up, because what it's trying to attempt to do is protect the egg that it believes is being fertilized. So it's pretty much putting up, it's thickening that wall so it can protect the egg inside, so no germs or bacteria can get inside to harm what it believes is your baby. And so now at this point, it's thickening up and she's pretty much drying up, and she may not be in the mood. Every woman is different. Every luteal phase can be different, but pretty much that's what's going on. And that throws a lot of men off, because that last week before, she was just jumping all on top of you. You were the king of the world. You was feeling like the man because she wanted you, and you thought it's because your game was good or whatever. But this week she's not wanting you as much, so it could throw you off, because she just went from the happiest to not feeling so good. Excuse me. During this time is what a lot of men joke about is, yes, she has a lot of mood swings because a lot is going on with her hormones. So if you ever saw the movie When Harry Met Sally, well, this is when you meet Harry, Sally, Susan, Belinda, Ophelia, or whatever personality that she has in her. All the personalities are going to come out to play. It's going to be a time. So yeah, she's going to have a lot of mood swings, and this is not her fault. This is not the week for you to be arguing with her because she says something slick. She might snap at you and say something, but you got to have patience as a man and self-control, and control the environment by not saying anything, not control the environment by dropping the bass in your voice and putting her in her place and showing her you're the man of the house. This is not the time to do that. When you know that luteal phase is there, anything she says that's snappy or snarky, just give her a patient eye. Don't give her a look that's going to egg her on and irritate her and instigate the situation. You need to have a calm spirit and be patient with her, because this is not necessarily her talking to you. This is the luteal phase and the hormone switches that she's going through. So yeah, and during this time, she's going to have a lot of existential crises, and they're really not that serious if we're being honest. And we're not making fun of her, but I'm just saying, like, it may be something as simple as She walk outside and she sees that her car is red. Now let's remember, her car has always been red. When she bought this car, she was excited and she looked you dead in your eyes and she said, baby, I'm so excited. I finally got the red car that I wanted. But during luteal phase, this red car is going to make her sad, depressed. She's going to see that red car. She's going to burst out in tears. She might fall in the floor, and it's an existential crisis. This red car is the worst thing that ever happened to her. Another example I like to use is that she may sit down at the breakfast table and there's 160 Cheerios in the bowl. She only wanted 130, and now it's the end of the world because she has 30 more Cheerios in the bowl. And how could she ever eat these extra 30 Cheerios? And she doesn't want to waste them because she doesn't want to pollute the world. She wants to recycle, renew, and reuse. And now she has an existential crisis and she's full of tears because she has too many Cheerios in the bowl. It may not make sense to you, but this is not the time to make fun of her. You need to understand that this is the luteal phase and she's going to experience a lot of emotions, depression, anxiety, all kinds of stuff is going on with her during this time. So it's not the time to make dumb jokes to irritate her. She's going to have a lot of headaches and different pains that she's going through. And also during this time, because her body is also producing progesterone. And as we talk about this, you'll understand progesterone does a lot. But the progesterone is pretty much like a sleeping pill. So it's going to cause her to be sleepy and sluggish. So you're probably happy about this because she's having a lot of mood swings. So you shouldn't mind that she's a little sleepy and she wants to sleep a lot, but let her take her nap. Don't bother her. Let her sleep. She's okay. It's just that, her body's a little tired. Now, also during this time, there's some double-edged swords that we have to deal with. And one of those things is during the luteal phase, she'll become what we call hangry. Now, let's talk about this a little bit because I talked to a couple of lady friends and talked to them about this. And at least 3 of them came back and said, hey, Zoe, I thought that being hangry was a part of my personality. They thought that anytime they didn't have food that they would get hangry, meaning all throughout the month. And what they discovered after I talked to them about it, they said, you know what? It's just that week of my during my luteal phase. And usually sometimes this is near the end of the luteal phase, because I'm sorry, I didn't say that the luteal phase is also 14 days. I'm sorry. But during their luteal phase, they will get hangry. But she's, a lot of them said outside of the luteal phase, they could care less if they had food or not. But during that luteal phase, please feed the baby. Make sure you're on time with the meals or you may not live. Like, please get the foods that they want. Be on time with the food because they will be hangry during this time. So the double-edged sword with this is that they'll be hangry and they want a lot of food and the things they want to eat, but also because of the progesterone causes them to be constipated. Okay. So you see what the woman is dealing with. This is just not her having mood swings and her having an attitude with you. She wants to eat a lot. So now that she's eating a lot, she's also constipated. So now she can't get the food out of her. That's pain. It causes her to be irritated. So these are some of the things that the women are going through during their menstrual cycle that you may not know about. So she's hangry and she's constipated, and that's just not, it's not a good look. So also a thing that happens around day 7 or 8 into the luteal phase, which would be pretty much day 21 to 22 of her cycle. During this time, the body realizes, man, you wasted my time. We're not having a baby. So the progesterone and the estrogen levels begin to drop. This is when she really starts having the mood swings. She gets depressed and she's feeling anxious because the estrogen going down decreases her mood. A rise in estrogen can make her happy, serotonin, dopamine, all that kind of stuff. But around seventh or 8th day of the luteal phase, the progesterone and the estrogen levels drop because they realize there's no baby to be made. We don't need to be thickening the lining of this uterus anymore. That's when it allows the prostaglandins to come in. And we're not going to get too deep into the science right now, but the prostaglandins come in and they help the uterine lining. They help it contract and it helps shed the uterine lining. Now, when the prostaglandins come in, they also cause inflammation. All right. So inflammation is pretty much just like when you work out and you pump a lot of weights and your muscles are inflamed now. They're a little sore because you've been working out. Right. So if you're in a relationship with a gym bae or a gym girly, whatever y'all are calling it these days, realize that she's in a bad mood, right? In the luteal phase, she's in a bad mood. She's depressed. She's anxious. And some women have expressed to me they didn't know this, right? So when she's in a bad mood, women, when they're in a bad mood, they're depressed and they're anxious, they usually want to work out to make themselves feel better, because working out does give you serotonin and dopamine to make you feel better, right? The problem with doing this during the luteal phase, once the prostaglandins come in and you have the contractions and you're inflamed, is it's like double inflammation. It would be the equivalent of you going to the gym with your boys. Y'all do a crazy hard two hour workout, full body, triceps, biceps, back and chest, legs, thighs, hamstrings, quads, calves. Y'all do everything. A 2-hour workout, strong, nonstop. And then you stop for about 10 minutes. And instead of saying we're going to take a break for 24 hours, you say we're going to do it again in 10 minutes, the same 2-hour workout. You know what will happen if you do that? You will rip your biceps, your triceps. You're going to tear something. You're going to injure yourself. You're going to pull a muscle. That's the same thing that's going on with her. So listen to this, y'all. This is a very bad place for them to be. So now they have to do a lighter workout. She can't go as hard as she usually does when she's feeling depressed or anxious to make herself feel better. She has to have a lighter workout. Because if she has a strong workout, she's going to probably injure herself during this luteal phase and during that, the session when the prostaglandins are helping breaking down the uterine lining. So it's a very important part to remember in the luteal phase. And like I said, that usually really starts around day 7 to 8 of the cycle, which is, day 7 or 8 of luteal, but day 21 to 22 of the cycle. So like I said, her body's going to be slow to recover around this time because it's already inflamed from breaking down the uterine lining. And so the last thing I want to say about this is a very important thing. Now, I can't say this is scientific, but a lot of women will probably agree with this. There's something you're going to discover during this time in the luteal phase. And remember, you're probably still on a cloud high from the ovulation. She thought you were the man. She wanted action all the time from you, and you were feeling like the man. During this, probably mainly the last part of the luteal phase, most women can attest to this, that she is going to want to break up with you. And I've seen other women say they didn't even realize why this is. And they thought, that maybe they're cleansing their energy or whatever. It's a part of the luteal phase of your menstrual cycle, usually around the last couple of days, right before your menstrual cycle starts again. She's going to want to break up with you. She's going to want to leave you. It's not working out. She don't know why she chose you. When she met you, you had Jordans on, and her grandmama told her never get in a relationship with a guy that wears basketball shoes anyway, because he's going to double cross you. All you got to tell her is, bro, you got cut from the team 7 times in a row. You from 6th grade to senior year, you tried out and you got cut every time. So you don't even play basketball. But she's going to have all the reasons why she should have broken up with you, and she should have never been in a relationship with you. And she might get into, it shouldn't be a screaming match, because you should know not to argue back with her, but she may be saying all kinds of crazy stuff, and it may hurt your feelings. And I know men, sometimes we can be sensitive or whatever, but you got to realize this is probably not her talking. And once again, if you have that soft answer, she may come back later and apologize for it. This is part of the luteal phase. Let me say my reason for it. I don't think there's any scientific research behind this, but this is Zoe's theory. I believe that what's going on in the luteal phase is because during the ovulation phase, it's where you have a baby, and you were supposed to get her pregnant. Now we went in the luteal phase around day 7 or 8 of the luteal phase. She has realized, you wasted my time. You did not get me pregnant. Remember, we are a part of the animal kingdom, right? So when the lioness goes out to find a mate, if that mate is too weak, she needs to replace that mate with a stronger mate. And that's when she realizes that you are not Mufasa. You are not Aaron, Pierre, Mufasa. And that's why she wants to leave you. But this is her inner being speaking to her. Like, this is the animal tendencies inside of her. She's seeing you as a weak mate because her inner being is saying, why didn't this man get me pregnant? He must be a weak mate. So therefore I must move on. And during this time, when she's saying she wants to break up, you're probably going to get in your feelings, be like, it must be Jerome at work. I saw the way he was talking to you. He must be your work husband and stuff. Please don't go into that, because that's probably not what's going on. It's just literally her luteal phase going on, and her deciding that, or her body or her uterine deciding that you are not a strong enough mate for her. Therefore, she wants to leave you. But if you give it a couple of days, she's probably going to want you back, So just understanding this is some of the things that the women are going through. I feel like I pretty much covered everything. I covered some of the items that you should get for the menstrual cycle. And a lot of the things you should understand in the luteal phase, besides just the mood swings and just understanding some of the stuff that she's going through. Trying to look back through my notes, I think I pretty much covered everything. But yeah, that's what the menstrual cycle is like for women. Once again, I'm not trying to speak for women, not trying to be an all-knowing guru, not saying I'm not an expert, a scientist, or a doctor, but these are things that I research, and I feel like they've helped me a lot in my relationship. They've helped some of my friends in their relationships, and some of my lady friends even understand their own menstrual cycles better. So, I don't want you women to get upset and think this is a man trying to speak for them. And the patriarchy, and it's not that. I really just want to help other men understand that they should take the menstrual cycle more serious and that it's not a joke, and so they can better understand what's going on and stop just saying that she's a crazy woman around her menstrual cycle. This is my first podcast episode, so I don't know how to sign out, but I guess I'll just say I'll see you next time.